it's Natasha, and thank you so much for joining me today for a see-through window card technique video. This is a pretty easy technique. It looks complicated, I think. When you're looking at the finished card, I think it looks really impressive, but actually the process to do it is pretty straightforward and pretty simple. Obviously, you can do this with any shape you like. You can do this with circles, hearts, squares, rectangles, stars, any sort of shape you want. You can even do this with a character, and you could do it with a coordinating die. That would work too. Today I'm going to choose to use stars. Now I have a very limited selection of these, and in fact this is my biggest star that I had available in the stacking ones, and so this one happens to be stitched, but yours doesn't need to be. And if I were going to advise you to try this for the first time, I would choose some stacking shapes that are slightly further apart in sizes. So I would skip a star and go for one smaller on the inside, or go for one bigger on the outside, just so that the border was a little bit thicker. You'll see in a minute how that kind of worked out for me, but I will just advise you that if you were to do this for the first time or try it, a thicker border is better. Now, I have my card base here. I have actually gone for a top folded 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch card base, and I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine with the card closed, because we want to cut right through both layers. Now actually this die did cut through both layers perfectly fine. If it doesn't, running it through like this will leave an indentation on the middle layer, on the back layer, sorry, and you will be able to kind of puzzle piece it in place and run it through again to get the second perfect die cut. But if it did like mine, then that's just a bonus. It did both of these layers, so that is fantastic. Easy peasy, 2 for 1. So we have a star-shaped hole right through the middle of our card, and this has left our card a little bit unstable as well. Obviously, it's missing some of its core edges. So from here, what we're going to do is create the part that's going to kind of cover up the acetate. So really, it's just a hole in a card with acetate to stabilize it and a border to make it pretty. It's very simple. So this is how I line things up. I do the inside one with a little bit of low-tack tape facing upwards, sticky side upwards, and then I add my outside layer, and then I just inch it around, squeeze it together so that all sides are pretty much as even as I can eyeball them. And this is how we are going to create our outside border. Now I have this rainbow glitter paper. I like this paper because it is not actually glitter, it's like printed glitter, and so it's very smooth, completely smooth cardstock, and it die cuts beautifully. It is bright, it is glittery without being glittery, and that's the kind of things that I like. So this gives me a good range. I'm going to choose, any colors could work for this. I didn't really mind at this point. I'm a blues person, so I was leaning towards the blues to begin with. I just really like the color blue, but honestly, as I said, any color is probably going to work. So I'm going to pop this on. Now, just because my stars are quite big, I am going to pretty much put them on as they will appear on my card. I just don't need that very left-hand wing there, and so I may as well save as much glitter cardstock as I can. So I run this through my die cutting machine. I'm actually going to run it through twice. I need one for the front and one for the back. Now, at the moment, I'm going to leave these, the centers kind of gently intact. It has die cut, but I'm just leaving it there for stability. And this is kind of what I mean about creating a bigger border. It just makes it easier to work with. But that's okay. I went thin because that's what I had. And now I'm going to add some double-sided tape to the outside border. I'm not getting on the inside because remember the inside won't be there, but I'm adding it to the outside. If you wanted to, you could put some double-sided sheets, tape sheets, or like stick-it adhesive or the double-sided sheets. Put this on the back before you die cut the stars out, and that way obviously you wouldn't have to put the double-sided tape, but it doesn't bother me, and this way probably works out cheaper for me personally. Now I'm going to use these acetate sheets to create the stability back into our card. So I'm taking the largest of the 2 star dies that I used, and I have die cut those out. This acetate is one of my favorites because it works well with die cutting. It literally has it written on the front of the package that it is perfect for die cutting. So it crisply die cuts, which makes life much easier. Now, this is back to my card base, and I'm going to do the same thing by adding some double-sided tape around the edges here of my star. This didn't take me long at all. I just used the thinnest double-sided tape I had. That's what I prefer when I am adhering acetate. I don't love using liquid glue for acetate, but that's just a personal preference thing. Use whatever you have available. Then I have all my bits and I just need to kind of put this together. So I'm going to do the front and the middle, obviously. This is where everything's going to get all nicely covered up and pretty. I use this little pick tool from, this is a Kaisercraft one, and this is probably something I use in every single card making session. It's only, I want to say it's less than $2 I think. It's a pretty good price on scrapbook.com. So I will link to these down below, but honestly, this is just my perfect tool. I'm going to pick off all of the pieces of release paper, and then that way I can put down my acetate sheet on there. Now, one of the reasons why I love this card is because it just creates a really cool card that you don't often see straight through a card. I will admit that this is definitely one of those cards that you're not going to be able to write the whole family Christmas letter on the inside of this one. It's probably one of those cards where you write a brief message around the outside or down the bottom of the star. That was my plan. That's what I've already done. This card has gone out already to a friend. So it's just something that you probably need to bear in mind, but we all have those cards where we need to write lots and somewhere we just need to write a brief message. So this is where I'm picking off the outside of the star. Now this paper, this cardstock, the glitter cardstock is very, very thin and delicate. Maybe not very, very thin, but it's pretty thin and delicate. That's why it die cuts so beautifully. And I have got a really thin piece of it here. So as I said, that's why I advise perhaps making this a little thicker if you have it available, or of course using some different materials. So this card always ends up coming together pretty quickly once you have all of the adhesive in place. I'm going to do the same thing to the middle here, pulling off all the release paper. Then I just line up my acetate star, and again, that's super simple. The shape is not tricky at all. Pop it down and it's going to adhere to all of that adhesive, and then do the same thing with my little star. It also doesn't help that the star is kind of cut open, so that makes it another fun thing too, but honestly it actually wasn't too much of a hassle. I found that just doing a couple of pieces at a time and I could move this around, and I really like the look of this. I think this could be used for any occasion. I like the fact that you can use any shapes that you have, any dies, basically anything that stacks. I think it's important to add on some sort of top layer or border, and that way you hide all of the adhesive where you've adhered down the acetate and things, but that's just a personal preference. Then I'm just going to cut this off flush with the card base, and the star is kind of coming off the edge of the card base, and yet the card base is nice and stable and kind of completely intact like the original state. So that is pretty cool. Now to decorate this, I mean, the options are endless. I was going to use up this star here just to use up the scrap piece of paper because it's only already got one of the points missing of the star, so I probably couldn't use it like a normal one. And I have this, I think this is called Little Bees or Little Babies. Now this is just a cutesy stamp set. I don't have many of these. I do love this one. These bees just speak to me. I really like them. I've stamped it out in some VersaFine Onyx Black. As per usual, when I'm going to be doing some colouring, I will throw over a layer of Clair heat embossing. So pop the embossing powder on. I just used the other card base that I had handy. I ended up making a few of these. I had a really big session and I just used lots of different shapes, and I absolutely found this really relaxing. It's a very easy process. It's just kind of one step after the other. Then I'm going to use some alcohol markers to quickly colour in this little guy. Very, very simple. My colouring is beyond simple, and I'm not even worrying about anything too particular, just yellow, and then I find a black marker and I go over some of his stripes with that. I do end up putting a little bit of light grey, I think it is, into his wings. If you wanted to, you could add glossy accents onto those to make them shiny and a little bit dimensional. That would be cool too. But then I just pop my alcohol marker and fill in the rest of the yellow. I am pretty sure that there is coordinating dies. In fact, I'm pretty sure, yeah, that there is coordinating dies for this little bee set. However, I very rarely, very, very rarely buy coordinating dies because I don't mind fussy cutting too much. This little guy is not too bad. Sometimes if I am stamping him down onto a flat, easy surface, I will just cut off his little antennae and then add them later. But I decided just to make life easier that I would add a little white border, which I don't often do, and that way I could pop him on my acetate. Then I have this, I think that's called Queen Anne's lace, I think, and it has this gorgeous little happy birthday, which I stamped in the Warm Breeze VersaFine Clair. And then this is an old W+9 stamp set. It just had the perfect stars in there, which I thought I would add a little bit more. This card is actually pretty simple. As I said, I'm adding just a few different shaped size stars and then one little outline star, and that's going to pretty much finish it off. I like the simplicity of this one. I'm going to pop my little bee in the center. So let me know down below if you have tried these window see-through cards and if you enjoyed seeing this one. Of course, I will have the links to everything down below, as well as the usual links that are all down there that you guys are pretty good at knowing now. And I hope that you have enjoyed creating this card with me today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for making it to the end. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for all of your kindness. It means the world to me at the moment in particular. I appreciate it, and other than that, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you so much. Bye.